because I feel like this is a message for any educator that is teaching a young Black or brown boy. Like, you have to, like, this is, you know, I was talking to someone that I work with, and she's like Moroccan or she has a Moroccan descent, and so she told me that she's been constantly looking for books that speak to reality. So we got tons of books about dragons and princesses and animals. You got, but you have like there's a small market of books that are books that represent us, that have characters that look like us. I believe there's a stat that talked about in 2019, only 11% of all of the children's books that were created, the thousands of children's books that were created in 2019, only 11% of those had characters that were African American or Black or brown.
Again, 9. He was telling me things, and he was like, "Yeah, Daddy, like the book. You know, we matter." And I'm like, yo, this is why this kind of stuff matters. This is why the messaging and the images and being able to reach, like you said, the younger kids, because once you make that impression, he's going to carry that with him for life. And if I ask him a question, or if a friend asks him a question, or if his teacher asks him a question in school, he can reference a moment in time when, you know what, my daddy sat down and he read this book to me titled Son, You Matter. And that was a moment for him to realize his value as a Black boy.
Yo, it is time that we talk. Yep, there's so much going on, so much being seen, heard, and felt, but what's missing is perspective. Yep, and your fave, your boy CYO, is here to provide the space, the opportunity for you to weigh in. And with that, we're going to touch on some of our other joys. That's music, fitness, pop culture, mixed with a little bit of foolery. Yeah, the CYO Podcast, our perspective, our show. Let's get into it.
What's up, creators? It is your boy CYO checking in. As I promised, I have a very special guest joining us for a very special moment. Okay, that moment is my very first Zoom recorded interview. Okay, now fingers crossed, if all goes well with production, you guys will be able to find this interview on the website www.cyo2012.com, also on our YouTube channel. Okay. Now, my guy here tonight, Mr. Washington, okay, he is an author, motivational speaker, youth advocate, a people builder. He's in the building today. Mr. Washington, how are you?
I'm well, man. How are you?
I'm doing well as well. I have a son, I have a daughter and a son, okay? With that being said, with my son, and we understand what's going on right now, there's a lot of talk about men and Black boys being targeted by the police. Okay, so I feel like this release of this book is right on time. Again, the title is Son, You Matter. So, Mr. Washington, opening the floor about your book, your new release. Please tell us more about the book, the title itself, and the book. What can readers expect when they get their hands on the book?
Yeah, as you mentioned, the book is called Son, You Matter. And so essentially the book is about a 7-year-old boy who loves ice cream and idolizes his father. And so what was the typical day, his father and the son, the son's name is Ahmad, they're on their way after school to get ice cream for Ahmad because, again, he loves ice cream. And on the way to the ice cream parlor, they actually are stopped by a police officer unjustly. And so like the book is essentially an opportunity for us to kind of glean the conversation and the emotions that kind of stem from being detained by a police officer unjustly. And so the father it's like a teachable moment, so to speak. The father has an opportunity to teach Ahmad how to respond to that moment and respond to the various emotions that kind of stem from from that interaction with the police officer. And the book, I mean, it sounds like it is indeed a children's book, so it sounds a little sad, but it definitely ends on a high note. And so it's a book essentially that I believe can encourage, the youngest reader to the oldest reader. I think it's a book where anybody that's reading it, whether you are male or female, is going to get something out of it and really be encouraged. And so, I'm really excited about it. Excited about just the support that I've received thus far. And just the stories of how it's been encouraging people and been a platform or a catalyst, so to speak, for like conversations. I believe that these are important conversations that we need to have, not only with our sons, our daughters as well, but especially our young men, like our young Black and brown boys are.
And I heard you talk about how the book is sparking conversation and how it's giving us an opportunity to have the tough discussions around how to respond when and if you are unrightfully detained by a police officer. Which makes me wonder, like, was this a part of the inspiration behind you writing the book? And if not, exactly what inspired you to write this book at this time?
Yeah, so it's a number of things. So essentially the book is written in response to George Floyd. Like, honestly, we had been in a pandemic for 5 months when George Floyd was murdered. And so it's like another one, like what, when does this like stop? And so George Floyd was murdered on May 25th. And so I remember, like, after looking at the video, watching the headlines, I remember like just feeling like just an overwhelming sense of like emotions and like this is just crazy. And so I think the next day I sat down and just really began to like put pen to paper and like write out my feelings. And the other part of it is, so in addition to George Floyd being murdered, my sister had just had a little boy back in October. And so I began to think about like, what will life look like for him? I don't have any kids of my own, but this is my nephew. So like, what will life look like for him the next 15, 20 years or so? Like, will we still live in a society where Black and brown boys are judged by the color of their skin? Will we still live in a society where, they don't accept black and brown boys for who they are and like all that they have to bring to the table? And so it was a combination of George Floyd and then thinking about my nephew. And I really began to write out like my feelings. And again, I try to remain as optimistic as possible. And like what I would hope, society would look like for him in the next 15 to 20 years. And so wrote out my feelings. It wasn't initially to write a book at all, like especially a children's book. And so it kind of flowed like a poem. And so I remember I sat down and like 2 hours later, I had the entire thing written out. It was late too. I remember like staying up to like 2 or 3, just like really writing because I had to get it out of me. And so the very next morning I called my sister who's in Florida and just read it to her because again, this book, this poem at that moment was written for my nephew. And so I read it to her and she was like, "Oh, you need to turn this into a book." And I'm like, "Nah, I'm not even thinking about that." Like, she was like, "No, I'm so serious. You need to turn it into a book." I sent a post on Facebook asking if anyone knew of an illustrator, and like people connected me to this amazing illustrator out of South Carolina. Out of North Carolina, and like just
the illustrators in North Carolina.
Yeah, she's in Charlotte.
Look at that, Charlotte, stand up.
Everything like fell into place, man. And so like I always tell people like this was just like ordained, like it was just because honestly I didn't run into any issues. Like when I tell you everything fell into place, and even like the support that I've received thus far. The book was released on July 14th. So I've just almost to the 2-month mark, and I've sold over 1,100 copies already.
Come on, man! Congratulations!
I appreciate that, man. Like it's just blowing my mind, man. So I think it's just about time. Yeah, it's amazing.
So I don't know if we got an exclusive here, but it feels almost like we did, because here's why. For one, I was not aware that it started off as a poem. So to hear you share how organically it just came together and came to fruition, that's super dope. Yeah. And as you shared, it just, to me, it speaks to how everything that is happening and has happened is ordained, okay, is divine, and it's happening on purpose with a purpose.
Absolutely.
So I just want to acknowledge that, and again say congratulations. That's a major deal. Like,
I appreciate it, man.
1,100 copies, like, for real.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and then I'm feeling super special because I'm based in North Carolina. So to hear that you had someone from North Carolina assist you throughout this journey, that's super dope in itself, right? Connecting the dots. Man, to speak to the intention behind highlighting and speaking specifically to little black boys. Mm-hmm. What was your thought, and what was the reason for you speaking specifically to them?
Yeah, like I feel like, as I mentioned, I feel like black and brown boys specifically are like targeted unjustly. I always reference whenever I talk to people about like just my experience, I always reference growing up. I'm from Gainesville, Florida, so country boy. Shout out to Gainesville. But I always reference the experience that I had just growing up in school. I was raised by my mom, single mother. My dad came to my life a little later on. And thankfully, like, their relationship has been mended. But like my mom raised me, like she did I was surrounded by like strong women, and like the male influences that I had were primarily in church. But I can remember distinctly, like I was in like elementary school, so grade school, probably like a kindergarten or first grade or so. And I remember going to this school where they tried to put me in like special education courses. And because I had a slight speech impediment growing up, and when I get excited, I start talking crazy fast, and then I'm country. So that my accent coupled with the speed or the rate at which I talk or spoke rather, like they wanted to put me in a special education course, but come to find out that was where they put all the black kids.
Exactly.
And so luckily, fortunately for me, I had a mom that did not play that. Like she was like, no, there is nothing wrong with my baby. Like he is comprehending the information. So you're not going to put him in any remedial courses. And so like she fought the school about that. And then in the very moment, placed me in another school. And from that point on, I was in like gifted courses throughout the duration of my schooling. And so I say all that to say is that I realized that every family is not like mine. I was just fortunate to have a mother that was really like hands-on in a sense with my educational experience. But we live in a society where you have the president, you have people in leadership calling black and brown boys thugs, like really society feeding them this message of no, you're inadequate or you're less than, and that's not it. So we have to really continue to affirm and reaffirm our black and brown boys of the greatness that they were born with. Not the greatness that somebody gave you. No, you were born with this level of greatness, man. So it's like you have to continue to feed that to our young men, so that everything else or every other voice is not like constantly being magnified or heightened in their ear. You have to continue to reinforce their greatness.
So with that in mind, I wanted to know, with the focus being on a little black boy, how do you see building a little black boy helping also build and impact and influence the little black girl who will soon become a black woman?
Yeah, man. I think it is all connected. Like, you know, you begin to teach young men of their greatness, their power, and their worth early on. And so they grow up to be men that understand their greatness, that understand their power as adults. They understand what, like you said just now about like their emotions. They understand like how to manage those emotions. And so you're not dealing with an angry man or a man that has an uncontrollable temper, because this is a man that has been, again, affirmed and reaffirmed and really understand self-control and self-worth. And so they know how to treat a lady, or they know how to interact with females, like respectfully. Like, I think it is just all interconnected, man. Like, I think that it is so important. Children are so impressionable. And so it's important that you get them. People ask me, well, why didn't you write this book for like a young adult? Or why didn't you are you right? Or do you have plans to write a book for a young adult? And I can't say no, I don't, because who knows what the future holds. But like, I feel like this is the age, this is the group of people that I've been assigned to for this moment. And like, it is important that we get them young, where they, again, are so impressionable, that they begin to really understand their power and their worth. So yeah, I just feel like you said, it's all connected. It's all connected. We teach them how to be young men, young respectful men who understand who they are, and kind of where they came from, and then they grow up to be adults that understand who they are and understand how to treat people. So yeah.